Welcome to Executive Insights. In this episode, I spoke with Ted Maulucci, president of SmartONE Solutions, a 3-year-old Canadian technology startup that's already making strides and turning heads with the mission to enhance smart community living experiences. Ted talked about what inspired him to go from a successful career CIO to an entrepreneur and lessons he learned along the journey. Hello, Ted.
Hi, Nasheen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good.
Thank you for being here today. Ted, I'm just wondering, you were a CIO for 17 years during an impressive 26-year career run at Tridel. Then in 2017, you decided to change direction and pursue an entrepreneurship. So why? What's the story?
It's interesting you say that. I mean, I always open with the comment that this is my second job, and it is unconventional to go from the comfort of a CIO position to becoming an entrepreneur. I mean, the reality of it is this isn't something new, and it was actually something that was always there with me. So at Tridel, I ended up writing a lot of software. So I worked with a lot of different divisions, built a lot of different systems. And over all the years, there was always this thing, can we sell this? So I kept trying to convince the owners, can we sell this? We actually pursued it in a number of times where we brought in consultants to look at what we were doing. Can we sell this? Can we sell this? And over those years, started to realize, well, another developer doesn't really want to buy another developer's system. And it wasn't really going to possible to really sell it. You could try, but when you're, ingrained in the middle of, the day-to-day operations of a company, you can't really sell something. So and that's really, so the answer to this is, it was meant for me. This is what I was supposed to do. It was natural that when the right opening came that I guess I would step into it. But I think the lesson in that I always share is because I obviously have a lot of friends who are CIOs after all those years and being involved in that community for so long. And so many people always say, I've got the idea. I want to go start my own business. I'm going to go do this. And like everybody has that. Not everybody, but a lot of people have that feeling that they want to have their own thing. They want to build their own company. And now having done this, I start to realize, well, the reason what you need to understand in this whole situation is actually pretty simple. And I always go back to this Tony Robbins quote, not that I'm a big Tony Robbins fan, but he always says, if you want to take the island, you got to burn the boats. What that means is, if you want to start a business, you're not going to do it while you're a CIO or you have a full-time gig and, hey, I kind of want to do this. The only way to actually do it is you got to do it. You got to put yourself in a position of discomfort. The only time you actually make something happen is when you put your back against the wall. The only way to make it work is you make it work. So if so many CIO friends are like, I got this business idea, and then when I say to them, you know what, the only way you're really going to make it go, you got to burn the boats. You got to really fully commit. And if you don't fully commit, it isn't going to happen because these aren't part-time jobs. These aren't kind of like, hey, the world is just going to work for me. When you go into entrepreneurship, it's a completely different thing. And I don't think it's for everybody. I always say that this is like, you need to be able to take a beating and still stand up. Like it's hard. It's harder than anything I've ever done in my life. And you do it because you want to do it, or there's a feeling and a burning desire to create something. It's not because you think you're going to make a lot of money. That's not what it's about. So I know it's a bit of a long-winded answer to the whole thing, but I think there's this dynamic. It's in people to want to do this. And if it is, you got to commit. You also got to understand it's not going to be easy. The best things in life only come out of hard work and commitment. And discomfort, unfortunately, is necessary a lot of times to be able to actually make something come to life.
That's great insight, Ted. And so speaking of lessons, what are some of the lessons that you learned as a CIO that might be beneficial to you today as a business owner running your own company, SmartONE Solutions?
So the CIO background was actually very, very fundamental. I mean, as a CIO, you're involved in every part of the business. So being in a CIO position for that long exposed me to everything. I learned accounting systems. I learned systems and processes, and I understood these things at least to a level enough to be able to operate a business. Like there's these basic things to make a company grow. A company can't grow unless it's got foundational elements. So there's a book I read that was actually, it was called Managing the Life Cycles of Companies. And there's a lot of great lessons in there about, it's just the life cycles of a company, from startup to growth to kind of mainstream to then decline, and why do they decline. And you go and I was going through, go through that book, and it gives a really good understanding of just the things that you're going to experience and go through. So the reason I went down that path of that story was, it then, in the story, the book, it goes through and it says, what's the fastest way for a company to hit prime? So what's the fastest way for a company to go from, a small entity into an operating entity? And I read this entire book. So I was watching and listening to the book, and it was talking about all the different elements. I won't get into the details of it. But then at the end, it said, there's a faster way to hit prime. So the guy wrote this book about 25 years ago. And then now he's saying, after all these years, I've learned that there's a faster way for a company to go from startup to being prime. And it involved two elements. The first element was entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship is this desire to create, and this, new ideas, new concepts, everything we know about it. The second thing, though, that you needed with that was administration. So when they meant administration, it was systems and processes, how I store documents, how I budget, how I report, all these fundamental layers. And if you think of it's logical, you've got the great idea. Well, how do you scale? You can't scale unless there's this proven systems and processes. Like, you need to be able to scale, you need to be able to replicate, but to do that, you need to build that. That layer is really what CIOs do. You build systems and processes that are repeatable. So you can see that now, if you're going on the entrepreneur's journey, having the vision and having a concept, but then using the knowledge of the CIO world to build systems and processes to create a repeatable and scalable organization, you can see that's what you need to really make something take off.
That's great. And you and I have known each other for quite some time, and you always strike me as someone who are so passionate about building things for a purpose and finding meaning in your work. How is SmartONE Solutions delivering on your vision?
And that's the part, this is the part that I'm most proud of, because why are we doing this? Like, why did I want to do SmartONE? And I always say that there's two elements to myself that I've learned. Obviously, when you do your inward reflection, there's two things that drive me. And one is, building things. I just want to build things. That's who I am. I know it. I just want to create and build and build and build. And the second is contribution. There's always been a pattern in my life of contribution and wanting to give back and believing in that element of things. It goes right back to the story where I always talk about, why did I get hired at Tridel? Well, when I was in high school, I wrote programs to teach mentally challenged kids. The school board bought my programs, which in the 80s wasn't a big deal. But one of the parents that seen me do that work told Angelo Delzato, hire this kid when he comes out of school. And I got, hired. And then obviously through my career at Tridel, I'm on the board at numerous universities and colleges, because there's always this feeling of contribution is important to me. So that's what's fun about SmartONE, is we built a business now, and we're actually partnering with academic institutions across the country. So we build smart community solutions where we connect hundreds or thousands of smart homes into networks. And we have, networks of physical layers, and we have software layers and all these pieces. So we built this tool set and this framework. Now what we've done is it's being deployed across the country. We're actually creating a virtual community across Canada. So University of Alberta, University of Waterloo, University of Ottawa, and UHN, University of Toronto. And what we've done is we've got researchers in each of those areas. And if you imagine now, we created a mini smart community across the country. Now what they've done is created what we call this data black box, where we actually capture event series data in the home. So the door opened, they turned the thermostat, the light went on. So, and then anybody who comes into our partnership ecosystem contributes to the black box data. And then there's a data dictionary, so you know what you're looking at. So what's kind of neat about that now is, in all the years, so I've been involved in so many innovation activities. And the challenge in innovation in Canada has always been, Canada, we're not ranking well. Well, why are we not ranking well? One area specifically was the way we're working with academia. Business and academia don't tightly align, and there's no pathway to commercialize great research. So that was always ringing in my head. And then I've been on all these boards, then created SmartONE, and now the team has created this platform. And now we're actually fulfilling that vision, right? We're doing exactly, it just came and landed on our lap, so to speak, that now what we did is we've got this tool set. We've been funded by the government. We've got researchers who are machine learning and AI experts using the platform. And the idea is they can create assisted care solutions. We're already contracted in 20,000 homes. We can test things. And after testing things, we can potentially commercialize them. So again, the idea here is really, this is the thing that excites me the most, because it's like, now we got this way of increasing Canadian innovation. We got this way of, addressing one of the biggest issues that's going to face our population, which is age in place. We can use this technology to allow people to age in home. We can address the issue that we know, which is innovation, because innovation is what drives an economy. And to me, that excites me. The other thing that excites me is, I guess, the vision of SmartONE started 15 years ago. And there was always a feeling of knowing that doing this was going to open things. It was going to open ways to create sustainability, to do different levels of security, different levels of services. And it was a battle to get this platform going. But now the platform's going. I'm just thrilled to always see a new idea come out, a new concept come on top. For example, an HVAC company was like, what you've done is great. Now I can use your data to optimize the energy of a building. And this just keeps happening. And that's the part that's really exciting to me, is just to see the flourishing of creating a foundation and then watching what comes out of it.
That's such an inspiring story, and what amazing journey to get to where you are today. And speaking of technology, and I think we've all experienced in the past few months the role of technology and how critical it is and how powerful it is in ensuring that our lives and businesses still continue. And no doubt that technology will continue to reshape the way we work and the way we live. So how does the pandemic impact your mission of enhancing smart community living experience going forward?
Let me talk about the pandemic, I guess, in a few levels. Some people always say, well, what was the business impact? It did slow things down. And actually, it wasn't a bad thing that it slowed things down, because everything was very frothy, very intense. It gave a needed break. On a personal level, and I guess I'll go through it at a few different levels. On a personal level, I don't think anyone in my family was going to say, oh, the pandemic was horrible. Yeah, a lot. And I don't want to dismiss that a lot of horrible things are happening and that it's not great in all those pieces. But there's also so many families that I speak to, hey, we've never cooked meals together and sat together and connected as a family at the level that we did. And I think that's true in my case. It'll be a time that we'll look back on as that was, it was a time of connection. So on a business level, it obviously slows things down. A lot of people were afraid. From a recruiting perspective, it was positive, because we've been looking to hire more people, and it opened things up. It was really hard to hire, and it became a little bit easier. So it's been not a bad thing. There is a slowing to business, a delaying of revenue, et cetera. From a smart home perspective, it is interesting because we can do things. Like right now, it's like we can make a community touchless. Not a problem, right? So there's a lot of pieces like that we're now using. And I mean, I don't want to say using because it's not, but this is exactly kind of like what I had said before. When you create this platform and create these tools, you can do anything. So it's like, yeah, now I can operate the whole community. I can open my door with my phone. I can do everything without interacting with a person face to face. We can do a lot of things. We've seen that, and like to go on down another path was we now had a homeowner who's hearing impaired. Well, what can you do, SmartONE? Well, you know what? It integrates with your Apple Watch. We can create customized scenes that when someone calls you, it blinks a light. Like we can use the tools now to accommodate special needs. So whether it's COVID, whether it's being hearing impaired, or any other condition, we got a collection of tools that we can work with. So we can actually address those. And I guess now that I say that, that is the reason why I've been so passionate about this. I mean, the other thing about, SmartONE, and even prior to that, is I volunteered my time to, every smart city initiative I could. Like I'm still on the one for Vaughan, Markham, Newmarket. I mean, the mayor of Newmarket had myself and some people from Cisco's help review the development guidelines. basically to this same point, is like, if we don't put the infrastructure and tools in place, how do we address the conditions we're going to face? So yeah, COVID, but to me, not just COVID, is like, well, what's the next thing? And I think as Canadians, and this again becomes like, this philosophical innovation big story, but it's like, we don't want to be left behind. And unless we do these things, we don't have the tool sets to be able to address, future needs and demands.
That's excellent. And I like to sort of wrap the interview with the last question. And the question is about leadership, as that's a topic that's really near and dear to my heart. As a senior IT and business leader, what is your take on effective leadership? And what is your leadership DNA?
I love this question because I think a lot of it's going to be interesting to see that does it work. So I have a belief in a philosophy, and I saw it, and Angelo Del Zotto, who hired me originally at Tridel, he passed away last week. And I look at why that company grew and his inspiration. And really what this comes down to is what I think people don't get, which is the thing that makes a company grow is something squishy. It's not this tangible, rational, cognitive, oh, I had structures and processes and, I did this and it was me. And I think it comes down to really one thing. It's like, you care for the people that work with you and care with them at an honest, and like when you say it, you can't say it, you got to embody that. But my belief is that when you create a company where you care about people, you create connection, you'll be unstoppable. Like if you can hit the right points. And I mean, at SmartONE, we've been pushing that. And like, what's fun about this is we're getting to build a culture from the ground up. And everybody's been reading and studying culture. We've been coached by a gentleman named John King on the culture. And it's this culture of, we care about each other. We look after each other. We don't come to work because this is a job. We're coming here because we want to do something. We want to create and build something. The highest form or the highest performance of an organization is when people work collaboratively and they work towards purpose. I believe that if you have those elements, you'll be unstoppable. And we'll see if that plays out with SmartONE, because that is what we are. That is what we are about. We are about looking after people, caring about people, creating this feeling of, we're building something that's making a difference.
That's excellent. And I couldn't agree with you more on your philosophy of leadership. And I wish you well on your continued journey to success. And Ted, thank you so much. I appreciate so much your time today. This is another episode of Executive Insights by the IT Media Group. Thank you for tuning in.